j'espère que vous allez bien. Moi, en tout cas, ça va super. Et du coup, aujourd'hui, on se retrouve pour un nouveau jeu sur Stanley, je sais pas quoi là. Voilà. Donc, attendez, je reviens une seconde. Hum, attendez. Bon, c'est bon, attendez 2 secondes. Hum, Et c'est bon, on peut lancer. Attendez. Hum, On va sûrement faire plusieurs parties. Donc, attends, faut faire X. Avant de commencer, est-ce que je peux dire quelque chose? Oui, vas-y. Merci d'avoir vraiment réglé l'heure. Ces 2 fois où vous avez lancé le jeu. Mais merci. Tant que les gens ne prennent pas cette étape au sérieux, ils laissent l'heure régler sur 12 heures et basta. Mais vous avez pris le temps d'indiquer l'heure et je vous en suis reconnaissant. Bah merci. Je sais ainsi que vos sociétés, de votre expérience, vos attentions ne focalisez sur le jeu. D'ailleurs, je n'ai aucun moyen de vérifier si l'heure est entrée est correcte. Je vais vous dire, nous allons passer un marché. Mhm. Puis vous faites preuve de tellement de bonne volonté, la prochaine fois que vous lancerez le jeu et verrez cet écran, il n'aurait qu'à se dire votre heure préférée. Ah ok. Mon heure préférée, 16h30, 4h30, parce que c'est là que je termine les cours. Voilà. Donc, non, en vrai, bah, ouais, en vrai, c'est à 16h au goûter. Parce que chaque fois, j'ai la dalle. Allez-y, choisissez l'heure que vous voulez, même si ce n'est pas la bonne heure. Vous l'avez bien mérité. Sur ce, je vous laisse accéder au jeu. Ouais, parce que là, c'est même pas un jeu. Là, oh, oh! The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Comment c'est le jeu déjà? Attends, on va voir les paramètres. Champ de vision, on va mettre encore un peu plus. Bon. Attends, là, c'est bon. Sensibilité de la caméra. En vrai, c'est bon. Inverser l'axe Y, non. Vibration des manettes, non. Langue, français, c'est bon. Les sous-titres activés, c'est bon. Comment c'est le jeu? C'est parti.
This is the story of a man
C'est
named
l'histoire d'un homme
Stanley.
appelé Stanley.
Stanley worked for a company in a big
Stanley
building
travaillait pour
where
une
he was
entreprise installée dans
employee
le grand
number
immeuble où l'employé
427.
numéro 427.
Employee number
427.
427's
Le
job
travail de
was
l'employé
simple.
numéro
He sat
427
at
était
his
simple.
desk in room
Il devait s'asseoir derrière
427
son
and he
ordinateur du
pushed
bureau
buttons on the
427 et
keyboard.
appuyait sur les touches de son
Orders came
clavier.
to him through a monitor at
Les
his
instructions lui
desk,
parvenaient à
telling him
travers
what buttons
l'écran,
to
hein,
push,
lui
how
indiquaient
long
quelle
to push
touche
them,
évoluait
and in what order.
en ordre.
This is what employee
Employé
427 did
427
every
faisait
day
exactement
of
la
every
même
month of every
chaque mois,
year. And
année
although
et
others
année.
might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders
Mais
gave him,
Stanley adorait
as
ce
though he had
trajet.
been made exactly
Vous
for
pouvez
this
mettre pause
job.
hein, pour.
And Stanley was happy.
Stanley est heureux.
And then one day, something very
Et
peculiar
soudain, un jour,
happened. something that would forever change
Un événement
Stanley,
qui changeait Stanley à tout
something
à
he would
jamais.
never quite
Un
forget.
événement qu'il pouvait jamais
He
oublier.
had been
Wesh.
at his desk for nearly
Il
an
était assis sur
hour
son bureau
when he
plus tôt qu'une
realized
heure.
that not one
Quand il
single
réalise ça,
order had
pas
arrived
une
on the
seule
monitor
instruction
for
lui
him to
était prévenue
follow.
à l'écran.
No
Oh
one
mon
had showed
Dieu.
up to give him instructions,
Personne
call a
n'est
meeting,
venu
or
pour
even
lui
say
donner des ordres.
hi. Never in all his years at the company
Durant toutes
had
ces
this
années dans
happened,
l'entreprise,
this
il n'a
complete
jamais eu
isolation.
de silence de
Something was very clearly wrong.
assuré quelque chose n'allait
Shocked,
pas.
frozen solid,
Ok.
Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his
Mais en fait, il
senses,
trouva
he
ses
got up
esprits
from
et
his
son
desk
calme.
and stepped out of his office.
Bah déjà, j'ai un truc. Heureux de vous revoir. Un deuxième. Obtenir votre premier trophée. Ok, super. Donc... Attends, mais on est quoi en fait là? On est les fantômes dans
All of his coworkers were gone.
Lockdown
What
Protocol
could
là ou
it
quoi?
mean? Stanley decided to
Non,
go
je
to
peux
the
le
meeting room.
Stanley
Perhaps he had
décida de
simply
se
missed a
rendre
memo.
à la salle de la réunion. 409, 400. Ah, c'est les numéros des personnes. Genre les personnes ont des numéros. Elle est là. Mais je suis mort ou quoi? Pourquoi je vois pas encore ni rien? 424. Ouais, ils vont vraiment tout abandonner, on dirait. On dirait après un tsunami, frère.
When Stanley came to assess the two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Il décida de s'engouffrer dans celle de gauche. Wesh. Ah.
Yet there was not a single
Et pourtant,
person
là
here
non plus, il y avait
either.
personne.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
C'est en bas?
But Stanley just couldn't do it.
Stanley ne
He
pouvait pas faire
considered the
ça.
possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream.
Mais...
Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical star.
Il vit dans l'espace filant à travers un champ d'étoiles. Oh.
And Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too, surely, if he could just... He would prove it.
On voit la bataille navale pour avoir
He
B12.
was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes
B11, ah ouais d'accord.
and he invited himself to wake up.
Alors
He
il
felt
ferme
the cool weight
lentement
of
les
the
yeux.
blanket on his
Il
skin,
sentit le poids de
the
sa
press of the
couverture contre
mattress
sa
on his
peau,
back,
la
the fresh air
fermeté,
of a world outside
l'air
this one.
frais qui lui parvenait de dehors.
Let me wake up, he thought to himself.
Je me réveillais,
I'm through with
sentit-il.
this dream. I wish it to be over.
On a assez de se
Let me
rêves.
go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife.
Mon appareil,
and
ma
my
famille,
job.
mon travail.
All I want is my life exactly the
Je
way
veux
it's always
juste
been.
retrouver.
My life is normal. I am
On
normal.
voit un peu sur les côtés.
Everything will be fine. I am okay.
C'est un jeu d'horreur ou quoi? Hein? Non, c'est pas un rêve? Oh putain.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Et tout devient noir.
This is the story of a woman
C'est
named
l'histoire d'une
Mariella.
fille appelée Mariella.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She
Un jour
arose,
comme les
got
autres.
dressed, gathered
Elle
her
leva,
belongings,
s'habilla.
and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she
Mais
had
son
scheduled
pied
for
gauche il vient de
that
bouger
day.
là, non?
The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She
Et
had
par
no time for this,
l'extension,
so it was only a moment that she stood there,
elle n'avait pas le temps
staring
pour
down
ça.
at the body.
Et elle
And
ne
then she
reste pas.
turned and ran.
Punaise. Mais dis pas que j'ai fini le jeu. Et là, félicitations, vous avez gagné le jeu. Ah, du coup, on est vraiment redevenu Stanley. Là.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Tous les collégiens
What
avaient
could it
disparu.
mean?
Mais pourquoi?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
À mon avis, on a plusieurs fins. Là, j'ai rien. Par exemple, mais il y a sûrement un truc à faire, genre dans le... Attends. Là, c'est fermé.
When Stanley came to a set of two
Là,
open
il est pas...
doors, this was
Disent d'aller
not
à
the
gauche,
correct
donc
way
il faut aller
to
à
the
droite.
meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes,
Oh.
truly a room
Ah,
worth
voilà,
admiring.
une véritable
It had really
admiration.
been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this
Passer
immaculate,
quelques instants dans
beautifully
une
constructed
facilement
room.
inclinée.
Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Stanley se contenta de rester là.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Mais tu sais quoi? Je la porte, ben moi je continue.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years
Les
ago.
instructions étaient incroyables. Et le gars, c'est là, je tombe.
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform.
Stanley sauta de la plateforme et plongea vers la mort.
Good job, Stanley.
Bravo, Stanley. Tout le monde vous trouvez très puissant. Oh là là. Bah attends, mais on a plein de soins à faire.
All of his co-workers were gone. What
Les gens
could
avaient
it
disparu, mais
mean?
pourquoi?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
On va retourner à droite.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Ah, vous êtes là. Une carte d'accès.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off the wrong
Nous sommes
foot
peut-être
here.
partis du
I'm
mauvais
not your
pied.
enemy, really, I'm not.
Je ne suis pas votre ennemi,
I
vraiment pas.
realize that investing in your
Je
trust in
comprends que
someone
cela
else can be
puisse être
difficult, but
difficile
the
de
fact
faire
is that the
confiance.
story has been about nothing but you all this
Cette
time.
histoire ne concerne que vous.
There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by
toutes les
yourself.
décisions
Now,
seul.
I'm not asking for me,
Je ne vous
I'm
demande
asking
plus
for
pas pour
her.
moi, mais pour elle.
This is it,
Qui
Stanley.
elle?
Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another... Oh, no, you can't... Did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible. Let me double check. No, it's definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real
Vous n'êtes
person.
pas Stanley.
I can't believe I was so
Il
mistaken.
n'arrive pas.
This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for
Alors,
so
je pense
long.
que je vais
If you'd made
laisser
any
vous
more
balader.
wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the
On
most
dirait que vous
basic
complètement
safety
ignoré le
protocol
protocole de
for
sécurité
real-world
là-bas.
decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation?
Non,
Well, I
voilà,
won't
pas
have that
pris
kind
la
of risk on
situation.
my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a
Bon, je
moment
réfléchis
so we
sur
can
des prises de
educate you
risque.
properly on safe decision-making in the
Entre
real world. Please
de
observe this helpful
décision.
instructional
Regarde cette
video.
vidéo éducative.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person. But if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Rupert has a choice. He could invent a machine that eliminates food shortages across the world to make life better for all people. Or he could spend years of hard work forgetting how to read. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back, sack, and crack." Excellent. Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process. Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day. Do you make more than 8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Ah, welcome back. You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
Merci. Bon, bah, on va retourner en arrière, je t'ai dit.
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality. Almost there. You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending, the story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world. Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. Right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Night Shark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up. But now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code.
115. 115.
Stanley spoke the code. Night Shark
Eca-Nocturne
115.
115.
He spoke it into the receiver. Right there on the wall.
Requin nature 115. C'est quoi déjà?
I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me, did you? Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial step.
Requin...
Okay, fine. You're not going to do it. But you know what?
It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. You
Wesh.
behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All
Tout se
right.
passera bien, c'est parti.
When Stanley came to a set of
Amené
2
par
open
vie.
doors, he entered the door on his left.
D'accord, je vais dans celle de droite, parce qu'on a oublié quelque chose.
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
Mon Dieu. Oh mon Dieu. Mais c'est un jeu d'horreur en fait.
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work. Why? For what? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone, left here like so much garbage? It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever, reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to.
Je dois le faire. Éteins-le. Oh, il doit éteindre le jeu.
I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. You, who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child.
Vous n'êtes qu'un enfant.
My story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard to make... When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay? Stanley, please. I need you to make a choice. I need you to walk through the door. Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose. Do something. Anything. This is more important than you can ever know. I need this. The story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait. You need time to decide. Time to make sure your choice is correct. That is the best choice. That's all right. I'll wait for you to decide what's the right thing to do. Take as much time as you need.
Pauvre. Oh mon Dieu, c'est horrible ce qui vient de se passer.
Decided to go to the meeting room.
Mais du coup,
Perhaps he
on
had
n'est
simply
pas,
missed a memo.
on n'a pas fait ce qu'il a dit. Il avait dit, eh oh, oui, tout ça, tout ça. Donc, on va suivre ses instructions et voir ce qui se passe.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
C'est bon.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ah non, ok, là c'était pour... Ok, non. Oui, c'était pour...
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known that. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him?
Ah, d'ailleurs aussi...
This question would not go unanswered for long.
Il y a... Enfin, je vais essayer de... Wesh. Bon, je vais essayer de voir... Il y a un jeu connu en ce moment, qui s'appelle Schoolboy Runaway ou un truc comme ça.
Stanley walked straight ahead through
Enfin,
the
oui, c'est ça,
large door
Schoolboy
that read
Runaway, je crois.
Mind Control
Escape.
Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Devant de la mort.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise,
attendez,
he
j'ai des
reflected that
frissons,
his
donc
life
je
had
vais
been
prendre ma
of no
couette.
consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture.
J'ai une grosse
He doesn't
poupette.
know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no
J'ai
great
trop peur, je
loss,
suis trop un
like
trouillard.
plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned
trouillard.
and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow
C'était
life. Farewell, Stanley.
Adieu Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley. cried the narrator, as Stanley was led
En plus,
helplessly
Stanley
into
qui est
the
le narrateur.
enormous metal
Tandis que
jaws.
Stanley sera...
In a single visceral instant,
Sans-
Stanley was obliterated
Mais pourquoi c'est une
as
voix
the
de fille?
machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Il brouilla les os. Ah! C'est
And
Stanley
yet it
par...
would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game back in his office, as alive as
relancer
ever.
le jeu.
What exactly did the narrator think he was going to
Que cherche
accomplish?
à accomplir le narrateur.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ah, c'est genre un plan de la map. Plan du bureau. Là, c'est le bureau de Stanley. On est passé par là. On est à la droite. Ici, il y avait les bureaux, tout ça. On a continué ici. Après, on est re-allé tout droit. Et là, on est arrivé entre le chemin de gauche et le chemin de droite. Et après, il y avait les escaliers, tout ça. 431, 436. Salle de maintenance. Ah, c'est genre un musée de tout ce qui s'est passé dans la folle entreprise. Wesh! Faudrait qu'on essaye ça. Fun. Zone de guerre. Oh, il y avait une zone de guerre. Oh mon Dieu. Il y en a un, il a réussi. Enfin, on peut réussir à s'échapper. Au début du développement, nous avons imaginé une fin où Stanley se retrouvait sur un champ de bataille contre les extraterrestres. Le jeu développait sa propre intelligence et partirait de guerre contre le narrateur. Nous avons réalisé peu après que c'était poussé la blague trop loin et que c'était peut-être trop plat par rapport au ton du jeu. C'était long aussi, vu comme une manière de nous moquer des amateurs de jeux de tir, ce qui n'était pas à notre but. Oui. Je pense qu'ils ont fait, ils voulaient faire une zone un peu futuriste, je pense. Salle de pause. Je sais pas. Oh, je connais pas. Oh, c'était le minuteur, ça on l'a fait. Après un truc russe. La relaxante. Cette capture nous montre l'une des premières versions de la fin connue, sous le nom de fin relaxante, finalement abandonnée, fusionnée avec une autre partie du jeu. Mon Dieu. Le jeu de la fin relaxante. Bande-annonce. On a publié 4 bandes-annonces lors du développement. Chacune destinée du volume du jeu natif. Première sortie de mai 2012. Le jeu est sorti en mai 2012 et je sais même pas au courant. Ça, je l'avais déjà vu. Mais c'était longtemps. Stanley. The Stanley, truc édition. Salle de réunion. Plan plan de maintenant. C'est bien. On a fini le jeu. Bon, il fait voir là-bas. Ah, c'est les 3 endroits. Ça, je sais pas ce que c'est. Bureau du chef. Capture d'écran du bureau du chef en cours de développement. À mon avis, au début, il était comme ça. Après, il a fini comme ça. Et maintenant, il est comme ça. Horloge du bureau. Fin de la liberté. Oh, eh, tiens, il y a une fin de la liberté, ça je tire le bar. Bureau de compte à rebours. Fin de la liberté encore. Ascenseur de la salle des écrans. Bon, on va pas tout regarder. Ah, c'est le bureau de Stanley. Ouais, 2 bureaux de Stanley. Bon, je vais arrêter là, enfin la vidéo. Donc j'espère que vous avez aimé la vidéo. C'est un jeu, il faut avoir la PS Plus. Ou sinon, vous pouvez l'acheter directement. Voilà, donc j'espère que vous aurez plus de faim que moi. Et voilà. Allez, au revoir.